Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. We are here to recap the 2 games the Edmonton Stingers played in the BCLA. Off to a solid start, a 1-1 record. Joining me to discuss this now, Jevohn Shepherd, obviously former Team Canada star. Jevohn, how are you doing?
I'm great, and I'm back with you, so everything's good.
Let's get right into it. First game, Real Esteli, a tough game. Obviously, Esteli is the home team playing in Nicaragua. To come out with that tight 3-point win, what does that do for this team's confidence?
It's huge, right? Like, you go into a hostile environment, into their home, and come out with a victory. And I thought it was so impressive because not only did they go into their environment, into their home court, but Real Esteli, that was one of last year's finalist teams, right? So you know that you went up against a good team. They had 6 returning players from last year's team, and to go out there and just play as inspired as they did was huge, right? Especially being the first time, in the Champions League, or first time playing on a global stage.
And leading the way was Treyshawn Marble, 20-10 right off the bat. You need someone to come out with that strong performance. What did you make of his debut in the BCLA?
I thought, he set the tone for the team. From a standpoint of energy, he came out there and gave it his all, right? And that was invigorating. That was contagious for his squad. And I think everybody, vibed off of that and they fed off of that. You look at his numbers, 20 and 10, and he was just everywhere on the court. He was slashing. He was, making open threes. But he was doing it all the right way, and he didn't do it selfishly, right? And I thought that was huge for the team because everybody got to play in their strengths, and then he led the charge with how impactful he was with his play. In the stats column, came out with a win, but at the same time, like I mentioned before, just invigorated his squad.
You talk about energy. It was obviously going to be tough coming off the emotion of that, going into the second night of a back-to-back. They play Congrejeros. They get blown out. I mean, first quarter, 22-9. They're up against it. What did you make of that start, and then how things played out the rest of the way?
I thought it was the perfect learning experience, right? You come out with a big win, back-to-back. Now you have to play at that same level. Second night, you factor in traveling halfway across the world, guys not in their own beds, eating and so forth. They didn't come out and replicate that same energy that they had the night before, that same focus on the defensive side. And there was a lid on the basket. And I think that's all, reminiscent of just not having the focus that you needed and coming out there, and replicating that energy. So I think going forward, you have to learn from that, right? Like that's the nature of the beast. That what this tournament play is about is, fighting through those tough times and all the adversity in front of you. And that's where the experience is going to kick in with the roster.
Overall, you look at these 2 games, just to be participating in the BCLA, what is the significance of this for Canada basketball?
It's huge, right? Because I think we've spoke so long about the CEBL being a domestic league for domestic players, 80% of the league being Canadian. But now you have the opportunity to showcase on the international stage. So it's something that I myself have never had access to. So for those players, I think not only the name on the front of the jersey, but guess what? Now there's opportunities for the names on the back of the jersey because there's a number of GMs watching. There's a number of other teams watching. So it just, broadens the reach for the league, for the country, for the players. And I think that's so big time because, just the amount of opportunity that's going to be available to them. I'm almost jealous, especially when I'm looking at the age of some of the guys that are in the tournament, in the BCLA tournament. You're looking at guys from, 30 to 35 to 38, and then some young guys as well. So I may have had a little more juice left if I had held off and had the opportunity to play in this league. But it's great.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. Looking at, with the games coming up, obviously they've done what they needed to do here in Nicaragua. You've got some games coming up in Puerto Rico, and then mid-March we go to Calgary for a couple games as well. So what are your expectations for the Edmonton Stingers in 2022?
Well, I think the bar is set because you've had 2 very strong games to open up. One obviously came out with a victory, and one was caught you by surprise with a little gut check. So now you understand the level of play that you have to sustain to be successful throughout the tournament. Now, the interesting piece is that, the roster's not guaranteed. It's not a set roster. You're not guaranteed to have those same guys going forward. So that continuity piece, that's going to be important as well. How many guys you're going to be able to retain, and you're going to need to, because again, that muscle memory is there. They understand what they just went through, and how and what they need to do to be successful going forward. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing, and not only for the Stingers, but that's something you're going to have to prepare for against other teams as well. And I thought, looking back at this tournament, when you played Congrejeros on that second night of a back-to-back, they had a slight advantage there, because now they had an opportunity to watch film and scout and understand the weaknesses and the strengths of this Stinger team. So, going forward, there's always going to be that advantage or disadvantage depending on when you play in the roster makeup, if there's turnover or if you retain guys.
Wins and lessons, right? That's what it is all about. We'll see what Edmonton Stingers bring to the table in 2022.